Lucia Vega froze mid-polish as billionaire tech CEO Victor Reeves waved a document in Mandarin before his executive team, her
I am
secret
so
fluency
sorry.
burning in
I
her
truly
throat.
apologize.
Anyone who can translate this acquisition proposal gets my salary. For a day, $27,400. Reeves announced, nudging aside Lucia's cleaning cart with his Italian leather shoe. The boardroom buzzed with derision, the laughter sharp enough to cut through the polished air as executives exchanged smirks and mocking glances. Though her rag moved steadily against the rich mahogany table, every fiber of Lucia's body felt the sting of their laughter, her silence a shield she had carried for years. Derek Willis, the polished VP of Operations, tapped his Harvard ring against his glass as he quipped about using Google Translate. The room chuckled in agreement, dismissing the gravity of the proposal with arrogance, blind to the woman standing inches away who could unravel every character before them. Her phone hummed in her pocket, a vibration that carried the weight of dread. The eviction notice, its deadline looming in 72 hours. That single figure, $27,000, stood between survival and collapse, between a fragile dignity and the certainty of ruin. The jade pen pressed against her palm, heavier than its size, more than just an instrument. It was her inheritance, her secret gift, her burden, carved with characters of wisdom and scented faintly of sandalwood. It tethered her to her father's legacy. In its quiet weight lay the promise of opportunity, though cloaked with the risk of exposure. Would she finally reveal the identity she had hidden so long to those who barely saw her as human? Would lifting the veil bring her redemption? Or only fresh humiliation under the gaze of the powerful who trampled over the invisible? The air grew thick with the unspoken question, a prophecy that wrapped around her like a shroud as she slipped silently from the room, vanishing once again into the shadows. Lucia hadn't always been invisible. 15 years ago, she was the bright-eyed 8-year-old who amazed her teachers by switching effortlessly between 3 languages. Her Chinese mother, Min, had met her Dominican father, Raphael, at an international student exchange in Boston. Their love story had flourished despite cultural differences bound by a shared passion for languages and education. Words build bridges between worlds, Raphael would tell Lucia, his voice gentle as he taught her to write characters that danced across the page. By 10, she could translate conversations between her Chinese grandparents and Dominican relatives, earning proud smiles from both sides of her family. The jade translator's pen had been her 13th birthday gift, cool and weighty in her palm, its smooth surface interrupted only by carved characters spelling, "Knowledge illuminates." When she held it close, she could smell the faint sandalwood, scent of her father's study, where they'd spent countless hours poring over texts in multiple languages. This pen belonged to a great scholar, her father had explained. Now it belongs to another. 3 months later, Raphael Vega was laid off from Reeves Enterprises during a strategic restructuring. After 15 years developing the company's Asian market, partnerships, he was discarded with a severance package that barely covered 2 months' rent. The health insurance disappeared overnight. When the persistent cough turned out to be stage 4 lung cancer, the medical bills accumulated faster than the rejection letters from his job applications. Lucia remembered the night her father had returned. From an interview at a competitor, his face ashen. "They can't hire me," he'd whispered to Min. "Revs has blackballed me throughout the industry, something about proprietary knowledge." 6 months later, Raphael was gone, leaving behind $43,756 in medical debt, a heartbroken family, and a jade pen that Lucia now carried everywhere as both talisman and burden. Min took on 3 housekeeping jobs, her engineering degree from Beijing University, useless without American credentials or connections. Lucia's dream of a linguistic scholarship evaporated when Men's first stroke hit, forcing the 17-year-old to abandon her senior year and find immediate work. Now at 23, Lucia's days followed a punishing rhythm. cleaning offices at Reeves Enterprises from 400 p.m. to midnight, caring for her partially paralyzed mother until dawn, grabbing 3 hours of sleep, then translating academic papers online from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. under the pseudonym Linguistic Bridge. The anonymous translation work paid $22 per hour, far better than her cleaning jobs, $14 to $25. But clients were inconsistent, and revealing her identity risked losing the healthcare coverage her mother desperately needed. 60 hours of work each week. Every month, $200 for rent on their one-bedroom apartment, $463 for her mother's medications, $275 for the payment plan on her father's medical debt, $190 for groceries, $145 for utilities. The arithmetic of survival left nothing for savings. For 5 years, Lucia had moved through Reeves Enterprises like a ghost, emptying trash bins while executives discussed billion-dollar deals. She'd learned to make herself invisible while her ears caught everything. Strategic acquisitions, product, launches, personnel changes. Her fluency in Mandarin, Spanish, and English transformed meaningless background noise for others into valuable intelligence for her. She knew Victor Reeves had cut employee retirement contributions while purchasing a $14.2 million vacation home in Aspen. She knew Derek Willis had taken credit for the Singapore expansion strategy that junior analyst Priya Kararma had actually developed. She knew the company's public commitment to diversity masked systemic wage gaps. Maintenance staff were 87% people of color, while executive leadership was 94% white. Knowledge without power. Intelligence without opportunity. Lucia cleaned their coffee rings while understanding every word they said about Asian markets, Hispanic, consumers, and untapped multilingual demographics. The irony wasn't lost on her, but irony didn't pay bills or prevent evictions. And now the 72-hour countdown had begun. Her mother's disability appeal had been denied again. The final eviction notice would be processed Monday morning. Without $25,000 for back rent and legal fees, they would join the invisible ranks of the displaced, those who built, cleaned, and sustained the city without being welcomed by it. The document appeared on Reeves' desk at precisely 10:17 a.m. on Friday morning. Lucia noticed because she was polishing the glass trophy case nearby, close enough to see the Shanghai postmark and the logo of Hang Tech Innovations, one of China's largest semiconductor manufacturers. She also noticed how Reeves's perpetually composed face flickered with momentary panic. By noon, the executive floor was in chaos. Urgent meeting notifications pinged across monitors. The translation team was scrambled. Then the bad news delivered. Lin, the head translator, was in Beijing visiting family, and his 2 associates were at an industry conference in Tokyo. Lucia emptied waste baskets methodically, moving through the commotion like a shadow when Reeves burst from his office, waving the document. Everyone in the conference room now. She should have left. Her shift technically ended at noon on Fridays, but curiosity, or perhaps fate, kept her lingering, wiping down already clean surfaces as the executives assembled. Reeves slammed the document onto the table. Huang is offering us exclusive manufacturing, rights for our new processor. This could double our market share in Asia. That's fantastic news, ventured Willis, the confusion evident in his voice. It would be, Reeves snapped, if we could read the damn thing. They've sent it in Mandarin, and our translation team is unavailable. They want a response in 72 hours, or they're taking the deal to Samsung. Lucia's heart quickened. She recognized several characters visible on the cover page, technical terms her father had taught her, specifications for semiconductor manufacturing tolerances. Can't we use a service? Asked Priya Sharma, for something this confidential and technical? Reeves scoffed. Do you want our competitive advantage leaked to every tech firm in Silicon Valley? The executives shifted uncomfortably. Lucia's cloth moved in silent circles on the credenza. I'll make it worth someone's while, Reeves continued, his voice taking on a performative edge as he noticed her presence. "Translate this 30-page proposal accurately in 48 hours and I'll give you my daily salary. That's $27,400. The room fell silent. Then Willis laughed, others joining nervously. "Maybe even the cleaning lady can try," Reeves added, gesturing toward Lucia. "Though I doubt they teach Mandarin in housekeeping school." More laughter, sharper this time. Lucia kept her eyes down, but her fingers tightened around her cleaning cloth. "We'll divide it among the team," Willis suggested. "Use translation software for the first pass, then clean it up." "Fine," Reeves conceded. "But remember, 72 hours until Hang walks, and these documents don't leave this building. Security protocols in full effect." As the executives dispersed, grabbing copies of the document, Lucia noticed two things. First, they were badly mistranslating even the title page, murmuring about partnership opportunities when the characters clearly indicated exclusive manufacturing contract. Second, the 72-hour deadline aligned precisely with her eviction timeline. Reeves's daily salary would cover her mother's immediate medical needs and the overdue rent, but revealing her skills could cost her job if she failed, or worse, if she succeeded and threatened the executives' egos. The thought gnawed at her like a thorn. Even triumph could spell disaster. And what if, hidden inside those pages, lay the same kinds of treacherous clauses that had shattered her father's career? Could she live with herself if her talent enabled Reeves Enterprises to prosper off the same machinery of exploitation that had once stripped her family of security and dignity? Or would regret consume her if she refused and let the one lifeline she had slip away? These doubts stormed her mind in the still hours of early morning. By 1:43 a.m., as fluorescent light buzzed faintly in her tiny kitchen, she had made a decision. Her mother lay restless on a makeshift bed in the living room, pale and hooked to monitors that cast eerie blue shadows across her face. On the counter, the eviction notice screamed its urgency, the red circle around the number 72 like a countdown to doom. Lucia's plan was one of caution and disguise. She wouldn't expose herself directly. The risk was too great. Instead, she would probe the waters with subtlety, testing how much her knowledge was worth. By Saturday evening, clad once again in her cleaning uniform, she returned to Reeves Enterprises, its silent halls granting her cover. The guard greeted her with routine familiarity, and she leaned into the part expected of her, a weary immigrant daughter pulling overtime for medicine money. Inside the conference room, chaos lingered on the whiteboard. Mangled technical terms and mistranslated phrases, the proud work of executives playing at linguists. Lucia winced at the blunders, her heart aching with both frustration and opportunity. With her jade pen in hand, she carefully amended 3 pivotal sections, her handwriting precise, her corrections sharp. She signed the notes with a single phrase: "Night Owl." Not a solution, but a spark, enough to prove capability without revealing her full hand. By dawn on Sunday, her experiment bore fruit. She returned to the office early, cart in tow, and paused by the conference room door to overhear. "Who the hell is Night Owl?" Reeves's voice snapped across the table. Security swore no outsiders had breached the building. Willis, ever smooth, studied the whiteboard and then, without hesitation, erased her small claim of authorship. "Actually, this was me," he lied effortlessly. "I've been studying Mandarin privately. Didn't want to announce it until I was confident, but with the urgency..." Reeves's scowl melted into approval. A hand clapped Willis's shoulder. "Finally, some initiative. You'll lead this." What should have been her triumph twisted cruelly into ash. He wore her efforts like a stolen crown, while her real victory slipped through her fingers. The bitterness burned, but despair was a luxury she could not afford with only 48 hours left before the eviction hammer fell. That night, exhaustion clung to her as she worked at the kitchen table. Her mother slept uneasily in the next room, and the contract pages she had photographed spread before her like a battlefield. Line by line, she dug into the dense technical passages. Then came the revelation that chilled her blood. Hidden clauses, couched in sterile business terms, gave Reeves the right to slash 300 workers in exchange for profit margins. Her mother's cousin's family, who had barely begun to build a stable life, would be among those cast aside. The jade pen felt unbearably heavy in her hand. Was it still a tool of wisdom, or had it become a weapon against her own people? Complete the translation, and she would be complicit in suffering. Refuse, and her own family might be torn apart. As if fate conspired, her phone lit up with a message from her supervisor. New security cameras installed in executive wing. Cleaning. Shifts must finish by 7 p.m. Her fragile window of secrecy slammed shut. During Monday's shift, she resorted to hiding in bathroom stalls, scribbling furious notes on scraps of paper, and ducking into supply closets to work during stolen moments. Hours blurred. She clawed her way through 40% of the document, leaving, behind carefully placed night owl corrections, to bait their attention. Willis preened under the recognition, his lies growing bolder with each stolen credit. Meanwhile, Lucia's eyes stung from lack of rest. Her hands ached from writing, her body worn to its breaking point. At home, her mother's health spiraled downward, stress driving her blood pressure higher, threatening collapse. "Necesitamos un milagro," her mother whispered one night, clutching her hand. "We need a miracle." What she could never know was that the miracle already resided within Lucia's mind, a miracle bound by fear. By Tuesday morning, tension shattered the executive meeting. "We have a security breach," the chief of security announced, playing footage of a shadow moving in the conference room. The angle betrayed no face, just a silhouette. "Industrial espionage is possible," he warned. Reeves ordered a sweep of all staff with after-hours access. Lucia's heart clenched as Willis's gaze lingered too long. Had he guessed? That afternoon, she sat before guards, feigning confusion in broken English, performing her role as the harmless, barely literate cleaner. "No understand problem. I clean only. No touch papers," she repeated with practiced meekness. They seemed placated, but Willis wasn't. When the others left, his ring tapped ominously against the desk. "Funny," he said. "You understand instructions just fine when I give them. Complicated questions, though. You slip." He leaned close, voice low. "I think you understand a lot more than you pretend." Her stomach dropped later that evening when she discovered her locker rifled through. The jade pen, gone. Her talisman, her father's final gift. In the break room, Willis twirled it with smug arrogance. "Looking for this?" His voice dripped with menace. "Quite unusual for a cleaning lady, don't you think? These characters here, they mean knowledge, right?" She reached, but he drew it back like a cruel game. "Security's very concerned about unauthorized items. I've already filed a report." By Wednesday, HR delivered the blow. A formal warning for suspicious behavior and possession of unauthorized materials. Stripped of her jade pen, she felt as though her father's voice had been silenced. Her courage hollowed. 34 hours remained until eviction. Her mother rushed to the ER with chest pains, drained what little savings they had left. The landlord posted the final notice. 48 hours until their home was lost forever. Desperation drove her to Willis's computer during his meeting. What she found there made her blood run ice cold. He had deliberately mistranslated portions of the Huang proposal, twisting meaning into errors that could devastate workers and even trigger international violations. Reeves was about to sign an agreement that could trigger investigations and massive fines. When she returned to cleaning duties, Willis was waiting. "I know it's you," he said without preamble. "The mysterious translator. I checked the personnel files. Your mother is Min Vega, formerly Min Lu from Shanghai. Your father worked here until we, how shall I put it, right-sized him. Lucia's mask slipped. My father was an invaluable asset to this company. Willis's eyebrows rose at her perfect English, so she speaks. I wondered how long you'd keep up the act. Give me back my pen. Not so fast, Willis replied smoothly, twirling the pen like a dagger. First, a little conversation about your mother's immigration status. Expired paperwork, isn't it? Since your father died? What a shame if that information fell into the wrong hands. His words dripped with venom, the threat wrapping around Lucia like a chokehold. She stood frozen, fury surging beneath her skin, but the danger of exposure burned hotter than her anger. The choice was a trap: reveal the truth and risk deportation, or remain silent while hundreds of families were sacrificed on the altar of corporate greed. And time was not on her side. 30 hours left until eviction, 24 until Hang's deadline. For the first time, she felt cornered. But with that fear came a spark of defiance, sharper than anything she had known before. Thursday morning dawned with the board summoned for an emergency session at 9 a.m., exactly 1 day before the Huang Tech deal would expire. Lucia moved with practiced invisibility around the perimeter of the conference room, arranging pastries, pouring coffee, her presence dismissed as background noise. At the head of the table, Willis strutted with false authority, his PowerPoint glowing across the screen. The terms are excellent, he assured Reeves and the board. Exclusive manufacturing at rates 15% below market, minimal oversight. Lucia's stomach twisted. She knew the reality. The document had emphasized strict quality standards and detailed protocols, not shortcuts. And then came the worst lie of all. Accelerated production schedules requiring only slight staff reallocation. The phrase was a mask for mass layoffs, and he knew it. Her hands shook as she poured water, the weight of betrayal nearly overwhelming her. Then Willis stumbled on a technical phrase, mangling it so badly that the scholar in Lucia could not stay silent. "Something wrong with the coffee girl?" Reeves asked sharply, catching her involuntary flinch. The room froze. Heart pounding, Lucia spoke. "Ludong moxing," she corrected softly, her tones flawless. "It means fluid modeling system, not whatever he attempted." Gasps rippled through the boardroom. Willis's expression soured into rage. "Excuse me?" he spat. But Lucia, shoulders squared, continued. 5 years of hiding fell away as 16 years of study surged to the surface. Calm but steady, she dismantled his false translation. "This section refers to semiconductor thermal management. It has nothing to do with staffing." The silence was electric, charged with disbelief and awe. "You speak Mandarin?" Reeves asked, his calculating gaze narrowing. "Mandarin, Spanish, and English," she replied, voice trembling but clear. "I can also read Japanese and Korean, though speaking is harder." Willis sneered, desperate to claw back control. "She's lying. She's just a cleaner." But Lucia pressed forward. "My father was Rafael Vega. He built your Asian markets division before your restructuring destroyed him. He taught me this language and this field." Recognition flickered in Reeves's eyes. The name Vega still carried weight. "This is absurd," Willis snapped. "She's a spy." "Check my work," Lucia countered, pulling up her linguistic bridge profile. Reeves scrolled through glowing reviews, hundreds of academic and technical translations. His instincts warred with his prejudices, but business demanded results. Lucia pressed her advantage. Willis erased quality control standards. He also buried language mandating 300 layoffs, a violation of your labor contracts. The board erupted in murmurs. "Impossible!" Willis sputtered. "Page 16, paragraph 4, Lucia said firmly, reciting from memory. It specifies workforce reduction of no fewer than 300 within 60 days. I can read it verbatim if you like. Reeves leaned back, appraising her with the cold eye of a predator spotting opportunity. So you claim you can translate the whole proposal? I already have 60% complete, she admitted. I left the night owl notes. Willis stole credit. The color drained from Willis's face as the truth settled over the room. You were the night owl? Reeves asked, a slow, calculating smile curling his lips. Yes. The moment hung heavy before Reeves spoke again. My offer stands. Finish the translation by 9 a.m. tomorrow, $2,700. The number struck like a hammer, but Lucia lifted her chin. I want it in writing, and I want my pen returned. Shock rippled around the table. Reeves frowned. Your pen? The jade translator's pen my father gave me. Mr. Willis filed it as suspicious yesterday. Reluctantly, Willis produced it from his pocket. Its weight in her palm was grounding, a reminder of her lineage. And one more condition, she added, the boldness surprising even her. Written protection for my job, a confidentiality clause to safeguard my mother's immigration status. The audacity of her demands stunned the room. Yet Reeves, ever the strategist, only studied her more closely. Draft the agreement, he ordered his assistant, and provide her with resources. For the first time, Lucia felt visible. Not a ghost, not a servant, but a player. Still, the clock ticked. 18 hours left to finish what remained. 36 before the eviction that threatened to shatter her family's fragile world. With the jade pen returned to her hand, she worked through the night in the small room they provided. Coffee, adrenaline, and sheer will fueled her. Every keystroke cut through lies. Every line uncovered nuances machines could never capture. By 3 a.m., her body screamed for rest, but she pressed on. 85% complete, her notes revealed a truth more balanced than she'd imagined. Hang Tech's offer was strict, but not predatory. Layoffs were suggested, not mandatory, softened by retraining initiatives. Her phone buzzed, a text from her neighbor at the hospital. Doctors want to keep your mother another day. Deposit required $2,200. The glow of the screen blurred as Lucia rubbed her temples, the weight of impossible choices closing in. 30 hours until eviction. 6 hours until her translation deadline. She allowed herself the moment of hope. Reeves' money would solve their immediate crisis. She could negotiate with the landlord, pay the hospital, perhaps even find better housing closer to medical facilities. She rested her head on her arms just for a moment. The crash of coffee splashing across her desk jolted her awake. Lucia gasped as hot liquid spilled across her handwritten notes and seeped into her laptop keyboard. Oh, clumsy me. Willis stood over her, empty coffee cup in hand, fake concern plastered across his face. I was just bringing you a fresh cup. You looked so exhausted. The burning liquid bled across her work like an intentional sabotage, spreading panic in every fiber of her being. She leapt to blot the mess, but the laptop screen dimmed and died with a hiss. Her heart clenched. My translation, she began, but Willis interrupted with a predator's smile. Relax. I already copied your files to my secure drive. Safekeeping, you know. Such sensitive material. His tone was laced with mockery. Now, if only the files hadn't suffered some technical corruption. His casual shrug was a dagger. 3 hours of lost work. The only intact pieces were what remained on ruined, coffee-stained notes. As he turned to leave, his voice rang with venom. Reeves expects perfection. Maybe it's best if you withdraw before you embarrass yourself. Her phone buzzed again. The landlord. The eviction accelerated. Legal approval granted locks. Scheduled to be changed tomorrow. She stared at the wreckage, soaked papers, a ruined laptop, and the crushing weight of lost time. For one fragile instant, surrender tempted her. She imagined vanishing, walking away, finding another anonymous job. But the phone rang again, the hospital this time. Her mother's condition worsening, treatment suspended until payment authorization came through. She couldn't walk away. With trembling determination, she seized her jade pen and forced herself to reconstruct pages from memory, every stroke driven by desperation. Her cramped hand screamed with pain as hours dissolved into minutes. By dawn, exhaustion consumed her. Her head fell forward, drifting into unconsciousness. She startled awake to find Reeves towering over her, disappointment etched into his polished features, Willis smirking behind him. The clock read 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes to deadline. Reeves's words fell like hammers. I expected this. Housekeepers clean, executives execute, that's why I'm rich. He turned coldly. Draft her termination notice. She violated policy. But our agreement, Lucia protested, but Reeves sliced across her plea. Contingent on delivery, and you failed. His gaze shifted to Willis. Call Translation Pro. See if they can rebuild from scratch. Request an extension from Huang. Willis's victorious smile told her she was defeated. Her father's voice whispered in memory. Words build bridges. But what happened when those bridges were burned deliberately? Was this her end, more invisible than before? Then her eyes caught something, the edge of her bag. Her father's leather-bound research journal, forgotten until now. Wait! She called out, desperation shifting into clarity. Reeves paused, irritation sharp. We're finished here. But Lucia pulled the journal free, flipping pages, to reveal detailed notes, diagrams, parameters, the GX500 semiconductor series her father had helped develop. The very technology Huang's proposal referenced, knowledge deeper than the proposal itself, proprietary context missing from their draft. She held it up like a weapon. This contains technical precision no agency can provide. With it, I can complete the translation perfectly. Reeves hesitated, calculation flashing behind his eyes. You have 10 minutes. Adrenaline surged as Lucia bent over the pages, her father's legacy guiding her. The jade pen moved with renewed confidence, filling gaps, clarifying nuances, detailing the Luong-Moxing thermal system with precision beyond machine output. At 8:58 a.m., she entered the boardroom where executives waited before the video conference with Hang. Reeves eyed the translation skeptically. The call is starting, his assistant warned. Reeves weighed his options, torn between doubt and necessity. Perhaps Miss Vega should... Actually, came a voice from the screen, cutting him short. Lin Hang himself stared from the video feed, his team seated beside him. At his side, a familiar face appeared. Mr. Zhang, her father's old colleague. Miss Vega, Zhang greeted in Mandarin, his tone warm. An honor to meet Raphael's daughter. He often praised your gift with languages. Shock and gratitude welled in her chest. She answered fluently, voice steady. The honor is mine, Mr. Zhang. I didn't know you remembered me. We weren't aware you worked here, Lin Hang interjected smoothly, until our analysts noticed someone translating our deliberately complex proposal flawlessly. Few could navigate such terms correctly. Reeves frowned, lost, unable to follow their Mandarin exchange. Lucia turned to English, steady but firm. Mr. Hang confirms they embedded complexities as a test to measure whether Reeves Enterprises still retained the expertise my father helped build. Reeves's voice was cautious now. Do we pass this test? Lucia's gaze returned to the screen, shifting into Mandarin. Your proposal's workforce language is ambiguous, suggesting layoffs. Was this intentional? Hang's smile was thin, deliberate. Very perceptive. We have concerns about Reeves's labor practices since Mr. Vega's departure. The workforce language was deliberately ambiguous to see how they would interpret it. Lucia turned to Reeves. Huang Tech is concerned about your company's approach to workforce management. They included that section as a character test. Willis stepped forward. This is ridiculous. She's making this up to, perhaps. Lucia interrupted. Mr. Willis would like to explain why he deliberately mistranslated key sections and sabotaged my work. She pulled out her phone, showing security footage she'd recovered during her night of research. Willis, clearly visible, pouring coffee on her computer and deleting files from her directory. The room fell silent. Reeves's expression hardened as he watched the indisputable evidence. Mr. Willis, he said quietly, you're fired. Security will escort you out. The air vibrated with tension as guards appeared, seizing Willis by the arms while his voice cracked in shrill protest. The weight of his lies collapsed in an instant, his false authority stripped away under the sterile lights of the boardroom. As the doors closed behind him, Hang's calm voice filled the silence once more, his Mandarin deliberate and resonant. We will move forward with the partnership under one condition. Ms. Vega must remain as cultural liaison. The words carried authority, binding Reeves with the gravity of profit and reputation. Lucia's jade pen traced the exchange onto her notes, the blue ink flowing steadily, each character catching the light as if it were her father's hand guiding hers. What had once been a relic of grief had transformed into her instrument of command. They insist on working directly with me, Lucia explained, voice steady as she delivered the translation. The balance in the room shifted instantly. Executives, who once mocked her, now regarded her with wary respect. Reeves's eyes narrowed, calculation flashing across his face. The deadline looming, millions of dollars on the line. He could not afford to deny her now. Fine, he conceded sharply. Ms. Vega will oversee cultural implementation. The call concluded with formalities, but not before Lin Hang expressed his satisfaction at finding Rafael Vega's legacy alive and thriving in his daughter. When the others dispersed, Reeves approached. It seems I underestimated you. Many people do, Lucia replied with quiet composure. Their agreement honored, he scribbled a check for $2,400, his daily salary. But even that paled in comparison to the surprise that followed. An email from Hang Tech promising an additional $50,000 consultancy bonus, specifically designated for her role. A total of $77,400. Enough to shield her family from eviction, cover medical care, and for the first time in years grant her breathing space. The jade pen lay warm in her hand, not as a burden, but as a compass, pointing to her future. 6 months later, sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows in her new office. Director of International Relations. The title gleamed on her, doctor as brightly as the polished walnut desk inside. Beside her mother's framed photograph stood the jade pen in its crystal holder, its subtle sandalwood scent blending with the fresh orchids she kept nearby. Her father's memory lingered, not in sorrow but in strength. Her first acts as director had honored him. A scholarship for employees' children, a review of layoff practices, and the rehiring of workers once discarded. Families now received benefits, translated training, and a voice within the company. The contract she negotiated had boosted Reeves's Asian market share by 32% in just 2 quarters. The same board members who once dismissed her now addressed her with deference. Ms. Vega. Even Reeves himself, unchanged in heart, but guided by profit, admitted in shareholder meetings, her perspective has proven unexpectedly valuable. She understood the corporate dialect of numbers and results. Still, every nod of acknowledgement was a victory over invisibility. Her assistant appeared at the door. Your mother's therapist called. Progress is ahead of schedule. Gratitude swelled in her chest. Gracias, she answered, savoring the freedom of using Spanish openly in halls where her voice had once been muted. Her phone chimed. The board meeting in 15 minutes. 6 months ago, she had stood invisible in that same room, polishing glasses while executives debated futures. Today, she would present a global expansion strategy projected to create 450 jobs and lift company value by 18%. She glanced at a framed newspaper clipping. Reeves Enterprises stock soars on Asian partnership. New director credits immigrant father's legacy. The story praised her rise from janitorial staff to executive leadership, hailing her as a beacon of hidden talent. What it omitted, she knew, was just as important. The security guard turned engineer, the cafeteria worker fluent in 5 languages, the help desk technician now shaping product design, all promoted under her Hidden Talents initiative. Willis, meanwhile, reduced to teaching communication at a community college, had become a cautionary tale. Reeves still spoke of her ascent as lightning in a bottle, refusing to admit the system itself had failed. But his actions, reshaping hiring and promotion, mattered more than his words. And as Lucia walked the corridors, greeted by colleagues in English, Spanish, and Mandarin, she knew bridges had become highways. Entering the boardroom, the members rose in respect, a gesture that still startled her. She thought of her mother, rebuilding her engineering credentials, of the cleaning staff who now met her gaze without shame. Invisibility had once stolen her potential, but visibility carried the power to change lives. "Good morning," she began in 3 languages, watching heads nod in appreciation. "Today we'll discuss how embracing diverse perspectives shapes not only culture, but profit." Her slides glowed with proof: market share growth, improved retention, measurable success. Her jade pen danced across her notes as she guided them forward, bridging worlds as her father had taught her. One bold decision had reshaped everything. Has someone ever underestimated your potential? Did you have a moment when you finally showed your true value, just like Lucia? Share your story in the comments below. I want to hear how you transformed from invisible to invaluable. If you enjoyed this story of hidden talent and unexpected triumph, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to Beat Stories for more powerful narratives that will inspire you to reveal your own hidden strengths. Hit that like button if you've ever been underestimated, and ring the notification bell to never miss our weekly uploads of life-changing stories. Remember, your next chapter could be just one brave decision away, just like Lucia's was. Beat Stories where your potential becomes your power. Behind every headline is a human story. At Beat Stories, we go deeper where emotion meets evidence and drama reveals the system. If this story made you pause, reflect, or feel something, don't forget to subscribe. There's more to come.